who stopped just to go wee and then decide what the heck, this is a good place. I ain't take my little nap and overslept. It's live, ready to roll. Oops. If they wanted it there at 8 a.m., they're sure enough going to want it when I get there at 10 a.m. Helps a little bit right there. Every time an oncoming vehicle comes, of course, got them. Yeah. The main purpose for this is, in the event someone road rage decides to do a brake check right in front of me. By then, they'll be so close to my front bumper, my headlights will light the back of their car up like daylight. Plus the tail lights turning to bright red when they hit the brakes will prove they had done a brake check right in front of me. So, yeah, just trucking on down to New Orleans. The load is actually delivering to Thibodeau, 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 Louisiana. And then I will, from there, deadhead to Nolens, downtown Nolens. Wow, you're in Norway. This time of year in Norway, it's pretty cold, isn't it? Once I get to New Orleans this afternoon and get reloaded, then that load goes back to Mississippi, more or less. South Haven, Mississippi is not far outside of Memphis, Tennessee, so it gets me back right about where I started. Viking. Wow, that's pretty cold up there. I do this, well, I do live streams for different reasons. I usually do at midnight, which I did not do last night. I usually do what I call Mike at midnight, and I'll either pass along some humor or some little tidbit of wisdom or a proverb or a poem or something. Then on Sundays at 6 p.m. Central Time, I do what I call music, mouthiness, and Michelob, and that's where myself and some of my friends and I will sit around together and have a few beers, and I'll play music on guitar and sing, laugh and tell jokes and whatever. But the rest of these, I do so that I can prove my innocence, or there to be an accident, for somebody getting in front of me, slamming on the brakes, and then I couldn't avoid them. Which I don't know about other countries, but in America that happens a lot. Trucks were heavy, were slow, get out into traffic, somebody who's driving a lot faster than they should be decides that we're in their way and they're going to teach us a lesson. So, play guitar, cool. And the thing I do on Sunday nights, which I'm not sure what the time zone difference is, Sunday night 6 p.m. It's called Music, Mouthiness, and Michelob, and I take a lot of contemporary classic rock and country music hits and sing and play guitar. And a lot of times, which I haven't done in a little while, I'm about due for another one. So I'll take a song, and if you were to go to my channel, and you don't have to, this is a no obligation deal. If you were to go to my channel, you'll find several songs in one of my playlists called Easy Songs for Guitar. And I put the chords on screen, kind of floating in midair right above the headstock of the car while I play, so that people can follow along. I'm not the world's greatest guitarist, nor am I the world's greatest singer. I don't put those up there for the entertainment purposes of, hey, y'all watch me sing and play. I put them up there for the entertainment purposes of people being able to learn some songs that they did not know are as easy to play as they are. And after they've gone through those videos a few times, get to where they start getting the chords memorized, the order that the chords appear in the song, eventually they can play it without even looking at the video. The one I have that gets the most views is In Time by Mark Colley. That's the song where well, let me recap, okay? I sent out how there's a playlist on my channel, and this is a no obligation deal here. Nobody's under any obligation to go visit my channel. I'm not like that, but if you wanted to, the playlist is called Easy Songs for Guitar, and I have chords on screen. Say, for example, Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, country music song, and the chords appear on the screen, and I actually have them timed just the instant before you actually need to strike the first downward strum on that chord to give you time to see that, realize what the next chord is, change over to it, and play along. And the idea is that people can eventually learn these songs and they don't need to follow along anymore. But so people can realize there's some songs out there that they've always liked and want to learn how to play, but they may not realize just how easy some of those songs are. So that's what I do with that playlist, post those. I try to do at least one a week, but here lately things with my job have been kind of demanding. So my thing about playing guitar, a friend of mine actually told me she's got a channel on here called Witch on Wheels. She doesn't have any content. She likes to visit everybody else's channels. And she had told me, she said, you just really look relaxed while you're, and I never even thought about it, but I am. When I play, I just get in this zone. My wife says that like I close my eyes a lot of times while I'm playing, and she says it's kind of like you go somewhere else, and I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of do actually. But I had decided that I run across a lot of people who tell me they know how to play guitar, as far as they know some chords, and they've got rhythm, they know how to be able to keep the rhythm going while they strum, but they don't know anything to play on the guitar. And they don't, some people, like a buddy of mine, his name's Andrew, and he has an ear for music. You can set him down in front of a radio, he'll hear a song one time, never heard it before in his life, pick his guitar up and play it lick for lick, just like what he just heard on the radio. But not everybody can do that. That's a gift. That's not something that everybody can be trained to do. If they've got that gift, those people can be trained. Some of them don't need to be trained, they just do it automatically. Those are the ones who really got a double whammy of a gift. But then there's the rest of us. We've got to teach ourselves each individual song, one song at a time. And it's for those people that I have my Easy Songs for Guitar playlist set up. And also for people who are lead guitarists and like to play, and of course lead guitarists like to have someone around to play rhythm, and it just makes it where they can cut loose instead of trying to play the rhythm parts and the lead part both. So that if they don't have anybody around to play the rhythm part for them, they can follow along these videos and they can play the lead while I'm playing the rhythm. So it works out for both. Wow. I know some people play piano that same way. They just sort of sat down and got an understanding of it. And other than maybe someone might have taught them where the notes relate to the keys on the keyboard when they're real small, other than that, they pretty well taught themselves. I'm not that gifted. I play live. I haven't in a while, but I play pubs and taverns and things. I've never been booed off stage, so I suppose that's a good thing. Of course, now most bars, you know, people are slightly, I won't say drunk, although some are, but most aren't drunk. They're a little. I would like to think that still kind of picky and choosy about what they decide is or isn't good entertainment. But yeah, I've never been booed off stage anywhere I've ever played. guitars, and I will admit there's a couple of them that if they ever wandered off, I'd be pretty upset about it. But I don't have anything really nice. Okay, borrowed. Oh, I got you. Well, I wondered at first when you said stole if that's what you meant, and I thought, well, I don't know nowadays. Well, I can't say about Norway, but in America, folks wouldn't think twice. It's a every man for himself society. It never used to be, but it is now. But no, I thought maybe that might be what you meant. Borrowed. Be like, Dad, I really love playing this guitar. I'm just gonna keep it here, and if you ever want to play it, you know where to find it, okay? Of all the guitars I've got, well, I don't know if we want to say I've got 7 or 8. I bought one of them for my wife, and she doesn't even play. But she just really wanted it, and so kind of like something Elvis might have played, you know. So I was like, okay. So I bought that one for her, but I play it for her a lot. And the other guitars I've got, probably my favorite, my Ibanez Artcore, A-R-T-C-O-R-E. It's a semi-hollow. The body's kind of got the same style as a Gibson Les Paul as far as the outer outline shape of the body, but it's built like a jumbo semi-hollow with the F-holes and all that, and some really gorgeous finishing as far as the stain and all that, varnish and wood. It is sharp looking. And in fact, I've done a video a while back about the benefits of learning on an acoustic guitar over an electric. I think I need to whip out my Artcore, plug in the amp, do a side-by-side thing. I love my Artcore, but let's face it, if you don't have it plugged in, it don't sound near as good. Although you can play a semi-hollow without an amp better than you can a regular electric. Standard electric guitar, of course, without an amplifier, it's just a paperweight. But yes, if nothing else, for a chance to show that one off. It is pretty. Oh, it's a pretty guitar. So at the moment, I am in Mississippi on Interstate 55, southbound. I'm not sure what in Norway, y'all might maybe call them expressways. This is the main artery that runs from Chicago all the way down to New Orleans. And I am on my way, basically I-55 all the way till it ends at Interstate 10. And just off to the west of the ways is Thibodeau, where I'm headed. And after I've got a truckload of steel plates. After I get that steel delivered, then I'm on my way into New Orleans for pick up another load going to Mississippi. Alright, well, I appreciate you coming by. Have a good, if it's daytime there, I'm not sure what time it is for you, but have a good day, or good evening, good morning. Behind you. I'm about 7 hours behind you. All right, well, you have a good morning and have a good afternoon when you get to it. In the deep purple fall, a sleepy garden wall. Stars begin whoever recorded that originally. First time I ever heard it, I was a kid. It was sung by Donnie and Marie. Yes, as in Osmond. A lot of folks had a crush on Stevie Nicks when I grew up, as did I. But oh, I'd have kicked Stevie to the curb just to snuggle up next to Marie Osmond. Oof. I don't know. Marie Osmond had to be real nice to me had I ever the chance to have met Valerie Bertinelli. Who looks better now in 2019 than she ever did back in the 80s. She looked pretty good then too. I thought she was adorable. Valerie Bertinelli. She's a little thicker, but in my opinion, just thick in all the right places. She's a little bit country. He's a little bit rock and roll. What was that? It was like mid to late 70s. Traveling down the road, feeling hungry and cold. I saw a sign said food and drink for everyone. So naturally I thought I would take me a look inside. There was so much food, there was water coming from my eyes. Yeah, there was ham and there was turkey, there was caviar, and long tall glasses of wine at the yard. Somebody grabbed me, threw me out of my chair. Said before you could eat, you gotta dance like Fred Astaire. That goes back a ways. Long tall glasses. Name of that song. I always thought it was called I Can't Dance. Or maybe it's called I Can't Dance Long Tall Glasses in parentheses. Long Tall Glasses in the title somewhere. Exit 208, which means 208 miles to the Louisiana state line. That only works in one direction. If you're coming back north, it'd still be exit 208. It'd still mean you're 208 miles from the Louisiana line, but there's nothing to tell you how far you are from the Tennessee line. Trailer sitting so close to that white line, that's an accident waiting to happen. No lights on. If it weren't for that reflective tape, I would have seen it until I got right up on it. Late necessarily, because the load is what they call delivers first come first serve, which means they unload you in the order that you check in. It delivers anywhere from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. and I'll be getting there at 10 a.m. For traffic, maybe 10:30, but either way I'll still be on time. It just won't be first thing in the morning. She likes these videos. She likes the view of, like in this case, I have the same view in my phone right now. My phone is attached to the deals and one of those little windshield clamp deals. I have the same view in the phone that I have looking out the windshield. Of course, looking out the windshield, the view is larger. The phone's not any way impeding my vision. I'm looking well above it. Y'all are centered directly in front of me, directly from the steering wheel. So you see the same thing right now that every trucker sees as he looks out his windshield driving. Rain or shine, daylight or darkness, y'all see the same thing we do. Now granted, a camera lens doesn't see things exactly the same as the human eye does. And I think the reason why, which both the human eye and the camera lens work kind of the same way, it's got to do with how much light comes in that allows us to perceive what we're seeing. And the same goes for a camera lens. But a camera lens needs more light than the human eye does. The slightest little bit of light at all, and a camera lens will still show a picture that's pitch black dark. Not dark like this. Y'all can see my headlights on the ground. Y'all can see the white line zipping by on my left, solid light, white line on my right, and of course the reflectors on these guardrails. But I mean pitch black dark where you can't see anything, and with just the slightest amount of light, a camera will still show you pitch black dark where you can't see anything. The subject that the lens is peering at or looking at, technically a lens doesn't look, but the subject that's in front of the lens, it has to be lit up more for a camera to see it than it does for the human eye to see it. The human eye, now this is one thing that is different, where it looks like with my headlights, you can just barely see the road in front of you. I can see, but on flat ground, I can probably see 2 miles. And as far as the road in front of me, every bit of a mile clearly. But now I can see even farther than that any subject that's lit up. There's a building or that light tower ahead of us that y'all probably can't even see right now. Red flashing light up top. Things that produce their own light or have light shining on them farther away, even in the darkness, I can still see. The camera can't. Well, this camera can't. There are lenses and filters and things that you can get to help be able to see clearly at farther distances in the dark of night. Now, just your standard Android phone camera, this is what you get. I'll tell y'all a story. And before we go into the story, about barge lining. Barge lining is the I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for here. Anyway, there's the art of, or the job of, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for as a word, but barge lining is where there are a bunch of barges lashed or tied or wired together to make one large unit, which is called a tow, T-O-W. And then a tow boat, one word, T-O-W-B-O-A-T. A tow boat will face up to those barges and push them up and down the river. Now, it's kind of a, not really, I don't want to say protocol, but it's kind of a standard practice. If you're in the pilot house, because sometimes when you've got your work done, or if you're on your sleep watch and therefore you're not working at all, you're going to hang out in the pilot house as long as you don't disturb the captain. Or the pilot, you know, there's two pilots on a towboat. One of them is the captain. Pilot is the person at the helm who navigates the vessel. So, as long as you don't disturb the pilot on watch, you're always welcome in the pilot house, unless you're actually on duty and you're supposed to have work that you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, if your work's caught up, or if the captain or the pilot just call you up there and say, hey, why don't you come on up here? I need someone to talk to keep me awake. That's kind of common too. But anyway, it's common practice to say that the pilot on watch and yourself and maybe the mate and the engineer, we're all up there in the pilot house carrying on in a conversation. All of a sudden, the pilot gets up out of his seat, which is usually a very nice, comfortable bar stool that has armrests on it and a tall back. So it's a swivel seat on bar stool legs, I guess we'll say. Up out of his seat, we all will become quiet. If he says, no, y'all go ahead and talk, I'm okay, then by all means we continue the conversation. If he doesn't, then you draw the conclusion that the reason he's out of his seat is he's trying to pay closer attention to something going on out there in the river, the channel. So you just sit there silently until he says, okay, we're good, I got this, and you know, whatever. So now, with that in mind, let me tell y'all this story. I say y'all, at the moment, there was someone just popped in here a minute ago, but now it says 0. But I say y'all, so anybody might see this later. I don't know, I may, if there's nothing really you can see here, I may, because I'll have to pull over right about daylight and do another load check, and I may just go ahead and delete this and start all over at that point. But anyhow, I was on the motor vessel Joe McAllister years ago, and I was the mate, the first mate. Now, the regular crew are on 6-hour watches. On 6 hours, off 6 hours, on 6 hours, off 6 hours. That's how the whole boat functions, except for the chief engineer, the first mate, and the cook. And then if there's a second mate or a lead deckhand on Joe, we had a second mate. The second mate, first mate, chief engineer, and the cook are on call. They work however many hours it takes to get the job done. If it's a couple hours here and there throughout the day, or if it's sun up to sundown all day long. Cook usually gets up around 3:30 in the morning, has breakfast ready for 5:30. After breakfast, immediately starts getting ready for lunch, and she'll go back to her bunk room and take a nap. Get back up again to make the finishing touches for lunch. After lunch is served, same thing, she'll start making preparations for dinner, depending on what the dinner is going to be, or supper. She may stay up all afternoon cooking. She may get a chance to go back to her bunk room, take a nap, she might not. But then after supper, she's off from basically 6 o'clock in the evening until 3 o'clock. Chief engineer sets his own schedule. Gets up as he needs to get up. Goes to sleep whenever he feels he wants to sleep. Although it's kind of an unwritten rule that if he doesn't have anything going on and he hasn't been up all night, then he's up in time for breakfast and will be up for at least 6 hours before he goes back and disappears. It's kind of understood if someone disappears on a towboat and they have not fallen overboard, they're in their bunk room asleep. So the first mate and the second mate, or some river companies call them the second mate, the lead deckhand. And the difference is the lead deckhand does the same work that the mate does, but he does it for deckhand pay. Whereas the second mate will actually get paid better than he did as a deckhand. He just won't get paid as good as the first mate. But anyhow, the second mate or lead deckhand are basically, qualification-wise, the same. They're on the same level. But the mate and the second deckhand or lead deckhand are up from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. That's 12 hours. As well as any other time they're needed from 6 in the evening to 6 the following morning. And now if they're not needed, nothing going on, yeah, they'll get 12 hours off. But then otherwise, being on call, there's times over a 36-hour period one time, wiring barges together, breaking apart, moving these overhead. One time we had all kinds of barges we had to shuttle, take them out of tow, move them to a different place, build them into a tow again. Especially if you're building tow from scratch and you're loading the barges one at a time, helping to supervise the loading of the barges, and then bringing them out, tying them together. When you get 5, wire them up into a string, that's your center string. And then you'll come back, start laying them abreast on one side, then back on the other side till you get 15 of them. If you don't have any locks to go through, which coming out of Paducah, Kentucky, once you get past the Olmsted lock, there are no more locks. We wire them together as 20. There's no limit to how many barges you can push on the lower Mississippi River, which is from the point of the southern tip of Illinois, Cairo, Illinois. From Cairo, Illinois north is the upper Mississippi. From Cairo, Illinois south is the lower Mississippi. There is no rule to how many barges you can push on the lower Mississippi, be it upriver or down. No rule, except you have to be able to stop them. The general rule, unless it's flood conditions, because in flood conditions, you know, the river runs faster. The general rule is 250 horsepower per barge. So if you got a 10,000 horsepower boat, the general rule says no more than 40 barges loaded, no more than 40 loads. The record on the lower Mississippi was set by the motor vessel. Whenever you see a towboat, it'll say M/V. That means motor vessel, or some people say maritime vessel. Motor vessel Miss K, which is spelled K-A-E, and then the letter D. Some reports say Miss K-D is D-E-E. But the name board on the side of the pilot house says Miss K-A-E, and then the letter D. The record, now these weren't all loads. I think she had right around 32 or 35 loads, 34 loads, somewhere there, and the rest were empties. She has the record on the lower Mississippi River, and you can't do this on the upper Mississippi because the upper Mississippi is narrower and there's locks and whatever else. But she has the record of 72 barges. There's some reports that say 75, but I believe the reports that say 72 are correct. Anyhow, so on we go now. Now y'all have a general knowledge of the working of a towboat. So at the time, I was the mate on the Joe McAllister. And the pilot, whose name was Bobby, I don't remember his last name anymore, was at the helm. Captain Johnny Newson was in the monk. Most everybody on the boat is asleep. The second mate is asleep. His name was Cliff. And everybody other than the deckhand on watch was in bed. Of course, except for your pilot, Bobby, and myself. Even on a boat, I've always been a kind of an insomniac. Can't sleep at night. A lot of people have tried to give me suggestions of things I might do to sleep at night, but I've just learned to accept it as the way my life goes. Trucking, drive at night, sleep during the day. You know, same thing barge lining. While everybody else, as the mate, you can do this. While everybody else is sitting there in the dining hall eating lunch, which not all boats have a dining hall. In fact, technically, the Joe McAllister didn't have a dining hall. It was a counter with bar stools that sat down kind of low, like the old counter at Woolworth's. And so we all ate in the galley. Most galleys are specifically the cooking area, and then the dining area is separate. The bigger boats. The Mighty Joe wasn't a real big boat. She wasn't a little boat by no means, but she wasn't a big boat. They judge boats by horsepower. The Mighty Joe, I think, was right around 6,500. But anyhow, I couldn't sleep one night, so I got up, went to the pilot house, and I said, Bobby, I said, care if I sit up and visit with you for a while? He said, no, come on. So I sat up there with your idle chit-chat. What's got you up this kind of time of night and everything else? And it was about this time of night. The pilot watch is from midnight to 6, and then from noon to 6. And we always kind of relieve each other half hour early, so technically 11:30 to 5:30. So anyhow, so I just couldn't sleep, we're just sitting there BSing. Now usually, as I mentioned, when a pilot gets up out of his pilot's chair, doesn't just jump to his feet, nothing like that, he kind of just stand up at attention, snap of, nothing like that. He just kind of gets up and starts paying attention a little more closely, looking out the windshield, and that's where you just kind of sit there quiet. this time, Bobby kicks that seat back. I mean, he jumps above it and kicks it back. And he is, man, like a dog with all their fur ruffled up when they see something they don't like further up the hedge. You know? Now, meanwhile, I'm sitting there quiet like I'm supposed to, looking out the windows. And I noticed a red flashing light. Now, on the river system in America, if you come into a bend, it has what's called a day board. A day board might be diamond shaped, it might be triangle shaped, it might be square, or it might be round. And I am not an ace navigator to be able to tell you why there are different shapes, but they're one of those 4 shapes. It'll either be red or green, and it's reflective. If the sun hits it just right, it shines. And the reason is so that nighttime, if a vessel, and it doesn't have to be a towboat, it can be a small pleasure craft. If a vessel points its light, anything with reflectors, of course, is going to shine in front of it. So all of your buoys have reflectors on the upper tips of them, and all of your day boards or day markers have a reflective surface. Some of them, the entire board is reflective. Some of them, just maybe about 2-inch map borderline all the way around it is reflective. And I'm paying attention now, and I'm looking, and on my right, and those of you who know anything about navigation will understand what I'm about to tell y'all. On my right is a day board, which also has a light flashing on top of it. Now, it has a light flashing on top of it. It's no longer called a day board, now called a day light, which is pretty interesting considering the purpose of the light is so that at nighttime you know where the board is before you ever start searching for it with your searchlight, and the light will be the same color as the board, which is, there are only 2 colors, red or green. That's it. And the lights actually flash in a certain sequence. And there is a book that can tell the navigator based on long flashes, short flashes, and how many of them. I don't know how it works because it's bigger than the Holy Bible, but you can find that light listed by its flash pattern. I'm sure that's something you learn to do in navigation school. But for someone like me, I'd be forever looking in there trying to find it. We'd have already crashed and burned, and I'd still be looking. So anyway, I noticed as we're trucking along, there's a day board on my right flashing, and it's flashing red. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, I'm about to tell you. But I happen to notice that the boat seems to be working a lot harder than it was when we was heading downriver. The boat is suddenly working a lot harder than it was to maneuver itself along between the banks. And I'm looking at that light board flashing, and I just spoke out of turn. I said, "Bobby, are we northbound?" And he said, "My God, yeah, we are, this, that, and the other." And thank God, we come around a bend, and the river had been moving kind of swift. And he come around the bend, and when he did, he had turned sharp enough, which he thought was exactly what he needed to do, and maybe in most circumstances it might be. Some bends you flank. That's where you'll hit reverse. And towboats have rudders not only behind the propeller for steering, but they also have rudders in front of the propeller for flanking. And flanking is when you are running your rudders in reverse. Therefore, in calm water, you would be backing up. As the water is shot forward, those flanking rudders, because there's one on each side of the shaft. Whereas you only have one rudder behind the propeller, you have two flanking rudders. So you got one steering rudder and two flanking rudders for each propeller on a towboat. And towboats have as many as 3 propellers. Most of them have just 2. There might even be one out there with 4, I don't know. But I know for a fact I've seen them with 2 and 3. And of course I've seen smaller ones with just 1. But anyway, we had come around this bend, and what they call driving it. That's where you just, maybe you'll put more throttle with the starboard engine than you will the port if you're going to be making a bend to the left, which is what we were doing in this case. But the idea is you're not going to be doing any backing at all. You're not going to need your flanking rudders. You're just going to go ahead and drive it. Flanking the bend, you might actually keep on driving with your starboard and start backing with your port engine. And in doing so, it's similar in the process to how a bobcat works, what they call a skid steer tractor, or a bulldozer, a tracked vehicle, a crane, one track going forward, one track going backward, and that's how it turns. Well, or it has to make sharp turns anyway. Another way of making a bend, depending on how the current is running and how sharp the bend is you might flank it entirely, where you got both of your engines throttled in reverse, steering solely with your flanking rudders. And that moves the stern of the vessel, because with 5 barges in tow, the tow itself is 1,000 feet long, plus however long the boat is, which in this case the Mighty Joe was right about 140, 150 feet long. It's just a medium-sized boat in every way. So apparently we had come around this bend, and whether he drove it on one and flanked it on the other, I don't remember entirely. But when you're all nervous, you just say what you think, and sometimes that may or may not be the correct description. And he said, yeah, I come around this bend and I drove her too hard, and fortunately it was a real wide bend. And he said, that next thing I know, we're doing a flip, turning around. So we go up the river a good ways until he can find a spot that he's convinced that is 1,000 plus, basically a little more than 1,100 feet wide. And he's about to let it fall over, let the current push the nose around. He's going to, basically, we were 4 barges wide, we had 20 loads in tow. We were 4 barges wide, 5 barges long. And we were, thank God, not at this time, we've had as many as 24 barges, where we were 4 barges wide, 6 barges long. But this particular evening, we only had 20. So he got the tow up against the bank, and then started using that starboard stern corner to heel off the bank and let the port engine pull by backing on her. And sure enough, after about a minute and a half, the bow of the tow, which we don't call it the bow, we call it the head. There is no head of the boat. There's a head on the boat, which is the toilet, but the boat has a bow. The bow of the tow is actually the head. Anyway, so he lets us start falling over, and he says, so what do you think? Think we'll make it? I'm like, no. If you'd have asked me to bet a month's wages, because out there in the river, we got paid by the month. And not every company does it. Some pay you every 2 weeks. You're on the boat for 4 weeks, but they split your pay by thirds. So you get a check while you're on the boat, another check while you're on the boat, and then you get a check while you're off the boat. That way, you can't ever say that you don't have money to get back to the boat for the next crew change. But the Reed Crushed Stone Company paid us monthly. So anyway, if you asked me to bet a month's wages, I'd have bet, and I'm not a gambling man, but I was sure what was going to end up happening is as he pushes, lets the current push that tow around, because once he finally gets to the point that we're getting sideways across the river, he has to shut the engine, well, not shut them down, but put them in neutral so that the gear drive's in neutral, so the propellers won't be spinning. In the event there might be rock, or God forbid a submerged tree trunk or something, because as the bow of the tow, the head, is going to be coming up against the bank on the right descending bank, the stern is going to be pushed into the left descending bank. And the reason we call them that way is no matter which way you're facing, the river descends. And so therefore, you may not always remember which direction you're facing, and therefore the port bank is not always the port bank. There's the east bank and the west bank, I suppose, but yeah, we refer to it as the right descending and left descending. If you're facing downriver, you've got your right descending, left descending banks. But anyhow, I'd have bet money what was going to happen is the steering rotors, assuming there's nothing but sand underneath of us, the steering rotors and then the wheels, the propellers on these boats are 9-foot diameter. The propellers and the wheels are going to get stuck into the sand on the left descending bank, and then as the head comes around, we're longer than the river is wide. It's just going to get jammed into the right descending bank, and then we're going to have the channel blocked, which is bad because we're loaded. Those loads are drafting 9.5 feet, which means the amount of barge sticking under the water to the very bottom of the barge is 9 foot or more, which means the majority of the river current is going to be pressing against the entire side of the tow. Shit's going to get ugly. I myself would have suggested that we back down the river till we get back to that same wide spot where he spun it around once and spin it around again. He's, no, I think we'll do all right up here. Man, I'll tell you what. When we brought the head of that, when he brought the head of that tow around, you can actually see the weeds and small saplings and everything else bouncing around and whatever else for the head of the tow, pushing them out of their way. And I thought for sure the rakes of them barges were going to get caught up on the bank, and that's, the rake is that curved part you see on the nose end of the barge. And all barges have at least one, well, not all, most barges have at least one rake, and then they'll maybe have a square end at the other, or there might be a double rake at each end, or there might be a box barge that would be square at each end. Box barges are 200 feet. Your double rakes or your single rakes are 195 feet. If you're going to build a tow and you had the pick of the litter for which, assuming all your barges are loaded, you'd have a single rake bow on the stern. You'd want that rake facing against the boat. That's what the boat's going to face up to when the tow has been built completely. Then at your steering coupling, which is the first coupling out. Now that's not the first coupling. You're actually counting the coupling starting out at the head. But your steering coupling, which is the first coupling from the boat, those same raked barges are going to be square at that end. And you're going to get another set of single rake barges and put the square ends against the square end where you're standing at the steering coupling, so that all three of them, or four of them in this case, you'll have four wide, will be a flat surface against a flat surface. The next coupling, which will be your second coupling from the boat, is the brake coupling, B-R-E-A-K. And you now have rakes there. What you want is 3, or in this case 4 more rakes to go side by side across that coupling where they'll join together. The reason it's called a brake coupling is because you'll break the tow apart at that coupling to be able to make lockages. You can only put, most of the locks on the river, you can only put 9 barges in the chamber at a time. If your barges are regulation barges, that's 35 feet wide, 195 feet long, you can put 9 of them in the lock chamber at a time. The lock chamber is 110 feet wide, 600 feet long. Your tow is 590 feet long. Your first cut, which is those 9 barges, so starting from the head of the tow back to the brake coupling, that's your first cut. It's 590 feet long. 585 if they're all 195, but usually in the center you'll always have a couple box barges, so that adds 5 feet. And 105 feet wide, so you don't have a whole lot of room for error trying to get into the lock chamber. Which is why one of the walls coming into the lock from either direction, upriver or downriver, there's a long wall and a short wall. They land on the long wall first with just the corner of the tow, but the long wall is not always going to be on your port or your starboard side. It changes based on where that lock sits in the river. And the way they'll maneuver into the lock is they'll get that long wall first with the corner of the tow out there at the head, and then start trying to flatten the boat out to get the entire tow against the wall. All the while easing up to the short wall. And you don't do this without having the mate, or at the very least a deckhand, out there at the head with a 2-way radio, or well-versed in hand signals at the very least. And he's going to talk you into the short wall. So what's going to happen, because of the width of the tow, as you try to flatten the vessel out to get the tow flat up against the long wall, even though you started with the head of the tow inside both walls, you're heeling off that corner of the long wall. So as you flatten out, the other corner, in this case it's that starboard corner, is going to actually come back out away from the short wall. So all the while you're flattening out as the pilot at the helm, I have to keep you moving forward enough that starboard corner stays within the short wall, while you're inching forward ever so slowly with the port corner on the long wall until you finally get flattened out. When you finally get flat, because the other thing is, can't let you get in so far that you come in contact with the lock gates. If you ride the lock gates, you're in trouble. The people, the Corps of Engineers, don't like that. So, anyway, that's how they get it into the lock. You get the first cut tied off, then you break apart the tow at the brake coupling, backing the second cut, which is the other 6 barges with the boat, backing them away far enough that the gates can be closed to raise or lower the first cut. And then similar process with the second cut after that, and then wire it all back together again and head on where you're going. Now in this case, there are no locks, but we did have the tow set up with the brake coupling in case, well, not in case, we did in fact had to bring 15 barges through the lock chamber at Grand River / Gilbertsville, Kentucky, which is the lock and dam at Kentucky Lake. Tie that tow off, come back up light boat. Light boat to a towing vessel is the same thing as saying bobtail to a trucker. A trucker that's bobtail is driving the truck with no trailer. So a towboat that's light boat is a boat with no barges. We go down river, tie the tow off with some sails, which are the big round things you see sticking up out of the ground, out of the river, either end of the lock. Humongous big round things. And then we come back up light boat, we get 5 more, bring them through, and then go ahead, bust them apart, lay them abreast, and with the other, we have a 20 barge tow, and then away we go. That's the only lock at that time, the Olmsted lock down there at Paducah, or not Olmsted, but yeah, I think, well, there used to be 2 locks south of Paducah. Now there's just one, and that one is Olmsted. But there used to be 2, both of which were wicket locks, and Olmsted's a wicket lock. What that is the dam can be laid down. It's on hinges, and it can be laid down under the water, and then vessels can actually navigate over it. So when the river gets up high enough, they'll lay the wickets down to be able to do that. When the river, of course, is down at a certain height, then they'll go ahead and they stand the wickets up, and then all traffic has to use the lock to navigate past the dam. But anyhow, at this particular occasion, the wickets were down, so there'd be no lockage on the Ohio for us. So we built our tow coming out of the Tennessee River and onto the Ohio, down to the Mississippi, away we go. Yada, yada, yada. But I thought for sure what was going to end up happening, that tow was going to get busted in half. And we'd be trying to catch it with what barges are still attached to the boat and wire it all back together on the fly. That sucks. All my years on the river, that only happened one time. That happened on a vessel, canal barge called the Laney Jones. Because of another pilot named Bobby, a whole different Bobby. I'm not sure what he did, honestly, but he wasn't paying attention. But anyhow, so you're wiring your barges together at the brake coupling. You would want 3 more rakes, what we call facing down or facing the boat, with the square ends facing up, and then you're going to have 3 box barges across the next coupling there, which is your second coupling. And at the other end of those box barges, which is your first coupling, the water will roll under the rakes on the nose or the head of the tow. Because of the box barges that are between your first and second coupling, the water and the square ends on the barges attached to those box barges, water will just keep on keeping on, more or less kind of a smooth journey. It'll probably ripple around a little bit, those couplings, but not much. Then it'll come back up again where the rakes meet the brakes on the other end of the brake coupling. And then it'll submerge right back down under those barges, flowing underneath the steering coupling, which is box barges again, or not box, but square ends against square ends. And then roll up again where the rakes are facing down at the stern of the tow. And then of course the bow of the boat, although you can't tell that from the way the deck is shaped, but the bow of the towboat is shaped the same way as those barges. So then the water rolls underneath the hull once more until it comes through. But that's only in perfect conditions where you have so many loads you can pick and choose. It's not always like that. Some I get creative. But in a perfect world, that would be a perfect 15 barge tow. He'd have got a month's wages from me, that heavy bet. But we made it. Oh man, I sure thought we wasn't gonna. But we did, we made it. The kicker is, while all this happened, there was a Coast Guard buoy tender in the deep part of the band. In this case, the band goes to your port or left. So therefore, as we came downriver, that buoy tender was on our right. It's kind of hanging out there in the wide portion of the band. The buoy tender is a boat with a single barge in front of it that has a kind of a sort of a small hydraulic crane, and they lift and maneuver buoys that get carried off the station place using satellite, no less. Buoys on the river, exactly what the chart. And the concrete slab maybe isn't as heavy, and sometimes concrete gets air in it, and therefore it's not as heavy as it might be. Most all your buoys are weighted with a large concrete block about 3 foot diameter, square. But as heavy as it should be because of a large airplane in it, or just it wasn't weight. That plus the air in the buoy itself is enough to let the buoy float and carry the block with it as the current drags it downriver. The other way buoys get carried off station is a towboat will come by and run over them. On accident, obviously. And for a notch in the tow, something underneath. Maybe you got the barge that's on the bow is a 9-foot draft, and then the next boat back is 10.5 foot draft. And as it catches the buoy, it'll get caught in that notch and then drag it off station. So anyhow, every now and then I guess, or not every now and then, I guess they just keep on going up and down the river. Of course, there's more than one. Checking with satellite, and if they're off, or if they're not right, move them back where they should be. But anyhow, that buoy tender is just sitting there because they don't do that in the dark. They only do it during daytime. So it's just sitting there in the evening. Now, usually in a situation like that, the captain would stay in and be like, you know what? Who's the big hand on watch? You sit here and you make sure that we, they'll usually just kind of knuckle in with levers from new clutch is where they'll start allowing the propellers to turn, but not very swiftly. The gearbox powertrain, and that's not even on one. It's just clutch. It's like putting it in gear, but you haven't given it any throttle yet. Anyhow, a lot of times they'll just have a deckhand stand there, and you just keep it knuckled into the bank, son. If she starts dropping back, give her a little more throttle, and if she starts moving forward, ease back a little bit on it. The bank. And then he goes down, watches TV, calls the wife, gets a little extra sleep, whatever. So whoever it was in the pilot house that night, because the mighty Joe McAllister, pushing 20 loads of rock and gravel on flat deck barges, made a big old U-turn right there in the river. And if that's enough, you're wearing an 1.5 thick foam buoyant vest around you. What we call a work vest. Although eventually I went and bought my own, got rid of that. And got one of those Stearns vests that's not much different than the one you might buy as a life jacket in a personal watercraft. Got the zipper, zips up actually, real nice fitting. But yeah, you're out there. Imagine being out there in the summertime wearing a winter coat. About what it's like, except no sleeves. I just got to where the heat was getting to me. Be out there in the winter cold, sleet hitting you in the face. You're to the point where I feel like they're gonna fall off. Got where I felt I was too old for that work anymore. I can still do it, but unfortunately I can't do it on my terms. Not that I require any job to be, all right, well, it's all about me now, we're going to do this my way. No, it's not that. It's that if I get hot, I need to take a break. If it's that hot and you're wearing an 1.5 inch insulation around you, it'll be several breaks. I got one time where I just stopped sweating. I mean, sweating my ass off. To the point, eventually, my clothes were soaked. You can even see all the salt from my body that was accumulating in my clothes. All little white rings or whatever. But my skin was dry. That's where you're to the point of falling out, whether you know it or not. I told the mate that was my very last trip on the river. I was at Canal Barge Company my second time around. And I felt I had put in my time. And they kept passing me up for promotion and passing me up for promotion. And passing me up for promotion. Now, I understand. They say if you ain't in the wheelhouse by the time you're 35 or at the very least 40, you'll never see the wheelhouse. I don't know why they call it the wheelhouse, because there's no longer a wheel. The helm is now controlled with sticks. But if you haven't gotten to the pilot house by the time you're 40 years old, Canal Barge Company, ACBL, American Commercial Barge Line. Brent Towing, all those larger companies like that. Unless your daddy's a captain, you ain't never gonna see the pilot house. You're over 40 years old. And I came to terms with that. Okay, no, from the engine room. And it turns out, and I'm not bragging on myself, y'all, I'm not all that. But it turns out I would be quite proficient in the engine room. While at Canal Barge, I got sent down there one day for an ass chewing. One of the things you gotta love about being a deckhand on a towboat is anytime you have to drive your personal vehicle, or if they have to put you on a bus, they pay you for the miles of that vehicle drove. I don't know if they pay you as much for taking the bus. I guess not, because they have to buy your bus ticket and you're not buying any of the fuel. Whereas in your personal vehicle, you're buying all the gasoline. So instead of reimbursing you for the cost of the gasoline and trying to figure out what would be fair, they pay you 33 cents a mile. Y'all, I barely get paid a little more than that. I'm getting 46 cents a mile to drive this truck. Big deal, 46 cents of nothing is nothing. You gotta have some miles to make some money. But nonetheless, the miles I do drive, I get 46 cents for each one. years ago, chances are they're probably paying every bit of 45, 50 cents a mile now as a deckhand to drive your personal vehicle to catch the boat. Or in this case, come down to the office outside New Orleans in Belle-Chasse, Louisiana for an ass chewing. Now here's how this works. You have your primary home number, and then they ask for a secondary number. They require a secondary number. Because if there's an emergency and you're a regular on that boat, somebody gets injured, has to be taken off the boat, they need someone on that boat. So you're going to have to, whatever you have only been on your off time for 3 or 4 days, there'll be an emergency, they're going to call you back. So in the event they can't catch you at home, they need a secondary number. And this is before the days of cell phones. So I didn't have any other relatives living in Peoria, Illinois, where I lived at the time. So the only other number I had to give them was my parents' phone number. My parents lived in the Chicago suburbs, specifically Oak Lawn, Illinois, on the south side. So I went home. I was married at the time. I went home. I was not married to the mama, Miss Elaine, whom I'm married to now, previous marriage. I went home, spent a day or two at the house, told the wife we were going up to my folks. Of course, her folks lived up there in Downers Grove, so if we went to see one, we'd go to see both. We went to see her folks first, spend the night there. Usually 2 days with her parents is all either of us could stand. And then we'd go see my folks. Neither of us could stand my mama. And I don't understand, my wife at that time, the wife I was married to at that time, she was extremely religious. Some would say, well, you mean she was devout? No, she was way beyond devout. She was 2 prayers away or 2 beliefs away from joining a cult like down there at Waco, Texas. She's just way out there in left field as far as religion goes. But nonetheless, and even though that would piss my father off, my father finally told her, look here, I love you, but if you're gonna, and you're exactly what my son needs in his life, but keep coming around here for me, didn't ask me if I thought it was a good idea, didn't ask me if she could handle it. Look, I need you to take your little wife to the corner. I have told her in the past, look, I'd rather you not come around here. To you, Dad was Catholic. I don't want you preaching your religion to me, which Susan was, you know, what they call born again Christian. But there's 2 kinds of born again. Thing within boundaries, and then there's kind that take it to obsessive levels. That was my first wife. So anyway, we were up there visiting, and now that her and Dad came to an understanding, Dad got along with her great. He loved her to death, thought she's the best thing ever since the invention of the wheel. My mom couldn't cook for nothing, y'all. My wife was Hungarian. Hungarians cooking is in their blood. On regular occasion, when Dad found out I was home, well, before I moved to Peoria, I was living in, what was the name? Darien, D-A-R-I-E-N, Darien, Illinois, which is also Chicago suburb, but DuPage County instead of Cook County. Had a house on a 1-acre lot, and whenever Dad knew I was going to be home, he'd volunteer to come over and put his lawnmower in the trunk and come up there and help me cut grass, just so he'd leave my mom at the house so so he can have a meal in peace and a meal that was actually worth eating. So that was so much fun. Like I said, Dad and Susan understood where Dad was at. She liked him coming around. She figured she'd just have to win him with affection. So she would not pull the, well, you're in my house now, Mr. Kenny, so I'm going to lay out my beliefs to you whether you want it or not. She was smart enough to realize if she did that, that'd be the only chance she ever got. He'd never come around again. And Dad come by to help cut grass a lot. But anyway, when we moved to Peoria, we're 5 hours from the house. And so we'd go up there and visit, like I said, her folks for 2 days, and we'd spend maybe not quite a week, but maybe 3 or 4. So one day, I'm up there visiting Mom and Dad with my wife, and the phone rings, and I'm sitting right there, the phone in the kitchen, I'm sitting right next to it. Dad says, "Get that, dude." So I just picked the phone up. I didn't feel it was necessary to say Kenny residence. I just picked the phone up and said, "Hello?" And the person on the other end recognized my voice, and they said, "Hey, MacGyver." Which, in the same way as truckers have CB handles, so do towboaters. And on the river, the only difference between working on the river and trucking is in trucking, you pick your own CB handle and you tell people, "Yeah, I'm called this, whatever this is. I'm called this and this, that, and that on the CB radio." But the reason you're called that is people say, "Well, who have I got there?" And you say, "Oh, this is the Interstate Cowboy." And they'll say, "Hey, cowboy, this is, so-and-so." Well, on the river, that's not how it works. On the river, you'll do something either heroic or stupid. And based on whichever one of those situations you present first, that's what's going to determine your nickname on the boat. Well, I used to carry, I carry a Leatherman tool now in my pocket. But I used to have a Gerber tool that had its own little holster. And you could operate the whole thing with one hand. You can have something in one hand, you only got one, and give it a little flick of the wrist, and it would come open. And now with that, you have a pliers and a multi-tool in your hand, ready for use. One day, we were out there working on the sounders at the head of the tow. Your depth sound, there'll be 2 poles sticking up off the decks of the barge down into the river at the head. One in each corner or close to the corner, depending on how, if they're duckbill barges, they're going to be in the center. Whereas if they're rounded corners, but flat nose barges, they'll be closer to the corners. Anyway, what those are is depth sounders. They got a small little brass foot. It's shaped like a long. Every now and then a piece of drift, which is a piece of floating wood, will bump them. And in the process of such, they will, the springs, they're made to kind of buckle and disassemble. No big deal. They're made like that if they were rigid and they get hit by a big old water-soaked log, they get busted up. So a lot of times you can just go out there, lift the thing up out of the water, hit the little lower end where the spring catch is, pop it back in place, set it back in the water, and you're good to go. But sometimes it'll get hit so hard, and instead of getting hit directly head on, it might get hit more kind of from the side, that it kind of twists the whole thing around. And now you got to take it apart, set everything back straight, put it back together again, and then put it in the water. But most times you don't. So nobody ever thinks, just in case, let's grab the tools, which is set a box combo in case we need them. Nobody ever thinks that. You just go out there, you check them, pop. Well, this time it got hit hard and needed to do more than that. And unfortunately for us, since we didn't bring the tools with, and now our daddy, if you're on a towboat, the captain's yo daddy, not your, Y-O-U-R, yo, Y-O. If the captain says, tell that mate, come up here, I want to talk to him, you go down, yo daddy, want to talk to you. I swear that's how it goes. Every boat I've ever worked on. Anyway, I'm out there with one hand on this thing trying to work it out. Meanwhile, the mate large company take hand back for the tools while I started working on it with my Gerber tool. Because I can go ahead, snug everything up, but you need the wrenches on each side, or at the very least a couple set of channel lock to be able to snug everything tight. I can only do so much with one slip joint pliers, a small one at that. So we get it all set up good enough that we can put it back in the water until that deckhand comes back. The captain is needing it because of where we're at, it's a rocky bottom, and he wants to be able to keep up with the river. He doesn't have to worry about grounding out anywhere. So anyhow, I get all that set up. The kid comes back with the wrenches. I'm still down there on one knee, so I just grab the wrenches. It don't take but one person. But a lot of times if it's going on the mate, they'll be like, y'all come on. And then, let me move over here for this fella. And then, after having and giving the other of us something to do on the boat. So I'd get all that matches bone tight and put it back. We have to pull it out of the water to do that, and then set it back in the water. The captain's happy, it's all good. And the mate says to me, damn, you're just like MacGyver. Now mind you, I've been on the boat all of a day. This is either the same day I got on that boat or the very next day, I don't remember anymore. But I was the new guy on the boat, which I did. I rode several hitches on the Walter Hagestad, but I didn't stay on that boat. And he just sort of stuck. I mean, that's not necessarily a heroic action, but it counts when it comes time for them to find a name for you, and you ain't done nothing stupid yet. So anyway, a day or two later, we're out there doing tow work. You know, we're building tow, and barges, wire, and then the mate was getting ready to tell me something to do. His name was John, and he's amazing me because there's more Mikes in this world than anything. Although I go by Michael, everybody always calls me Mike. I'd have called the channel one Michael to live, but that kind of doesn't have the same groove as the Mike to live. Anyhow, he says, MacGyver. my car years before I was ever trucking, that was the CB handle I had chosen. So it really kind of surprised me that he called me that. And I answered to it as if I'd been called that all my life, even though that was the first time I'd been given the name of anybody else. He sent me back to the boat to go get whatever it was we needed and come back out. And we got back, and everyone was like, yeah, my God, TV show driver. A lot of times when, I can't remember his name. But anyways, when he was in the presence of his boat, MacGyver here. Yeah. So, I get back to the boat, they're like, yeah, MacGyver saves the day again. And, so, yeah, I didn't do it, wasn't all that, you know. I just did what I was told the second time. And the first time, I just did what I already knew to do, you know. So, anyway, I'm in suffering, but anyway. But the office had been told of the nickname they dubbed the new guy. Now, I wasn't new to Canal Barge. In fact, I had come over to the Walter Hagestad from the E-Lane. There's an E-Lane Jones and a Laney Jones. And Laney Jones is the flagship Canal Barge Company. My first vessel that I got assigned to was the E-Lane. E-Lane Jones and the Deborah Valley boat. There's every way except for their name. And hell no. If this is what, you know, the old sailor mentality is, you fought your way for promotions, and you fought your way everywhere you went, you know, on board. What towboating is, then I'll go back to working on a fleet tug. Fleet tugs are okay, but better money. But anyway, when I came out the next boat, the third boat every trip, each trip is a hitch. So, hey MacGyver, how many hitches have you rode this year? Hitches have you worked this year? Now, whether you're on that boat for 30 days, 90 days, 120 days, the longest I've ever worked on a boat is 54 days. So that's about as close to 60 as I suppose I would care to get. The counts as one. You don't do 30 and stay on the boat, but now you're on your second hitch. No. If you stay down there for a whole year, that'd just be one really long hitch. So I called the company to check in, and usually they'd say, hey, Michael Kenny, you ready to go to work? And I'd say, yeah. So instead, I called this guy. We had a nickname for him. I can't remember what it is right now. busted up laughing because I knew the only reason he was calling me that he'd been talking to the captain, and the captain filled out my previous hitch. And so he says, so what can we do for you today? And this, that, and that. Starts all the conversation. If I give you some duct tape and some baling wire, can you build me a bomb? And I'd be like, man, everybody knows you don't use baling wire, you need duct tape and bubble gum. And and then joking and kidding around begins. And amongst most men, and I use the term loosely because anymore you don't know, just because a fellow's a guy, that don't make him a man. But amongst most men, most tough guys, most working men, you can tell if someone likes you because they mess around all the time, you know, picking at you. If one of the guys you work with comes up to you and says, hey, scrotum breath, what are you up to? Oh, the good old days. That is his way of trying to accept you as a comrade. Most men figure, you know what, work is serious enough without having to have a serious attitude all the time, even in between the important stuff. Now, I don't condone horseplay, and I won't get involved with it because of the fact I've seen how far out of hand it gets some places. But especially on a boat, someone gets injured really bad or God forbid killed, any kind of horseplay on a boat. So, but yeah, if they mess with you like that, that's their way of trying to say, hey, we're welcoming you to the team. So when even the office starts doing that, and then it got to be not just the two guys in dispatch, it got to be anybody in the office started referring to me as MacGyver. I'll bet y'all, if you went down Canal Barge Company right now and said, hey, when's the last time any of y'all remember Michael Kinney working here? They'd be like, who? Well, I don't know. They'll go to the computer, type the name in, and wait for my employee file to come up to be able to tell you what it is you just asked. Whereas if y'all went in there and said, hey, did y'all ever have a guy working here named MacGyver? As long as they have been in that office as recent as 2012, they'll be like, you know MacGyver? And they'll start telling you stories. So I figure there's worse things that have been called. And I tried that nickname for a little while as a CB handle once I actually started trucking. When I got off barge line boats, I went back to trucking. And it just didn't feel like a good fit. I guess because some names you don't have to prove. I don't have to prove if my name's Michael, which it is, but I don't have to prove it. Most y'all, I just gotta say, hey, how you doing? My name's Michael, and you all shake my hand and say, hey, nice to meet you, I'm so-and-so. And you'll never question whether my name actually is Michael, which it is. But now, if I say, hey, how you doing? Folks call me MacGyver. That name kind of requires a little something to prove that you have the ability to be worthy of the name. Such as building a bomb on duct tape and baling wire. Baling wire and bubble gum or whatever it is. So I don't know, I just didn't feel that it was a accurate, or maybe not accurate, maybe accurate's not the word I'm looking for, but just didn't feel like a good fit for what I was doing. Doing the same thing I'm doing now. Anyhow, well, this one here, they actually got flashing lights telling you it's 50. That means they really mean it this time. I guess because they really meant it the last time. They just didn't put no flashing lights on it, but I wouldn't recommend them last two anything more than 50 in a big rig for sure. This one here maybe even 45. Jackson, Mississippi. Southbound on Interstate 55. I've still got just under 4 hours to get to my destination. GPS says I'll get there at 9:30. I've gained a little bit. But it'll be closer to 10 o'clock between traffic and I've got stopped. That'll kill 5-10 minutes doing a load check. Miss Shelby's asleep. If she wakes up, I'll take her for a walk. Let her do her business. If she stays asleep, I'll just get back on the road. If she wakes up, that'll turn that 10 minutes into 15.
Keep left.
Wasn't a good fit. I decided to try something else. Years ago I had a base station. I lived in a little town called Olney, Illinois, O-L-N-E-Y. It's about an hour, about an hour south of Effingham, Illinois, which is where I-70 runs across the state east and west. About an hour south of there. And I can't say everybody, but a lot of folks in that town had base station CBs. Some of them who were die-hard, real serious about it, had the linear and, I don't know, of course your linear they call a kicker. And all these different kind of setups to increase the amperage, wattage, and ohms, and all that stuff to make it where it could send and receive signals farther. Some of them folks would have a system so strong they could broadcast clean up to Canada. One of those towers.
After 1/2 mile, keep left.
With their antenna way up high on top. Tower has ladder rungs built on all three sides, anchored into the ground, bolted up against the roof of the house. I had a base station that had been worked on. It was a good, strong radio.
Follow Interstate 55 southbound.
And all I had was a antenna wire running out my window
57 miles.
to the same type of 4 or 5 foot CB antenna you'd see on a big rig, bolted to the or attached, not necessarily bolted, but attached to the window frame. So it wasn't real strong because of that antenna placement, but it was still able to get out around town. It was strong all over town. In fact, out into the county because it was a pretty strong radio. Had I my antenna, even the same antenna, but up on the roof, I'd have still done better. And back then, my CB handle was Desperado. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one, but I know that you got your reason. These things that are pleasing you can hurt you somehow. That Desperado. Because the song really kind of fits my life story. Guys made some bad choices. I don't know about the fella they're singing about, but this guy, a lot of bad choices. Wrong choices, bad decisions, however you want to say it. As a working man, you've been out riding fences. A fella that rides fences, whether it be on horseback or in a truck, his job is to drive around on a cattle range or ride around a cattle range, whichever applies, fixing the barbed wire fences so the cattle can't get out. So he's a working man. Depending on the size of the range where which he's employed, especially if that was back in the day where everything was done on horseback, and depending on the terrain, sometimes still is on horseback, he might be out there for a few days. You know, he's got a certain section that he has to cover. You're not going to ride a half a day out and a half a day back and the next day start at the point where you left off, because you got to ride half a day out and so obviously you're going to have a tent and a bedroll with you or whatever else and set up camp every night. Until you get close enough to the other end of that section of fence where it's finally feasible to ride back to the ranch house. But the point is, he's a working man. I've been working since, well, before I was since I've had an actual legitimate paying job since I was 16. So I guess it's actually feasible to say, although a paper route's not a full-time job, it's quite the job when you're trying to get that done right before school and you're one of these kids that waits till the morning to do your homework instead of doing it the night. It would not be an exaggeration to say I've been working most all my life, as I'm 56 years old now. And the song just seemed to kind of fit. There's a lot of heartache, to my own bad decision making, my own bad choices. Some of it not. Some of it because some people, including those closest to you, some will stab you in the back just because they can, because that's who they are. The fact that your blood has nothing to do with it. In fact, family will hurt you worse than a stranger ever will. Because only those who are closest to you, who love you just enough, can. When I sing that song, I sing it with heart. I sing it with feeling. Because it still is an accurate story of my life. I actually have somewhere, I gotta look at my desk and see, but somewhere I actually have a script written. Back in the late 80s, I was a janitor at the VFW in Albany, Illinois. And while I was getting everything, so I'd come in the way, or I could come in anytime I wanted between the hours they closed, which was midnight, and again when they opened, which was 7 a.m. Now, mind you, the bartender would come in at 6 a.m., so I actually had 6 hours to do 2 hours worth of work. Sometimes I'd come in right after they lock up at midnight. They'd actually get, you know, I had my own keys. They'd actually go ahead and lock up, leave me in there, and away we go. Other times, they'd come in and I'd just be finishing up. It all depends on what was going on in my life, you know. Anyway, I turned the TV on. If I was going to be there in the morning, I turned the TV on. And that's back when CMT, Country Music Television, there was no GAC at the time. That's when CMT was more music than entertainment, whereas now it's more entertainment than music. But I forget the name of the show, but every morning was this one dude with wire rim glasses and this other girl, she was cute, and they were what they would call VJs, video jockeys. And yeah, they talk and laugh and cut up and, you know, read so-and-so's having a birthday in Raleigh, North Carolina. Also on the birthday list today, so-and-so from right here in Nashville, Tennessee, and what have you. Play a few music videos, have a little more chit-chat, maybe a little bit of news, country music news, and maybe a little national news. And but it was a real nice morning show, because it wasn't like the radio in the mornings. You know, the radio is mostly talk with an occasional song. This was mostly music videos with occasional chat. So I liked it a lot better. And I'd watch that while finishing up my cleaning up there at the bar. What more just some cleaning up? Whatever type of event the VFW would have, you had to set up for that. So, just, wow, bumpy road. Especially if they had every now and then they'd have a dance. They'd, you know, pay $2 cover charge at the door, come on in, we have a band. BYOB. The VFW sells liquor, but they only sell liquor to veterans. But anyhow, said, that song Desperado by the Eagles sort of fit in my life. So I sat down one day and I actually thought to myself that, boy, if I could ever find me some kind of a producer and give them this, and I can actually see my video, although I probably, you know how it is in the entertainment industry, someone's going to screw you out or whatever. I'd probably never even get so much as my name on there. Well, I probably would, because they'd probably be afraid I'd get an attorney and sue them. But I thought how cool it would be just to see this script turned into a music video, even if I never got credit for it. Because in the end, it's not about the world knowing I did that. It's about me knowing that I did something that made it big. You know? So I sat there one day at the bar, because when the bartender would come in, I'd sit there and have it. I've been up all night, so technically for me it wasn't morning yet. So I'd have beer and sit there and chill out. There's guys coming at 6 o'clock in the morning drinking whiskey, so I would then think it's so odd for me at 7 o'clock in the morning to be having a beer. But the script was beginning to end. Every single thing that you would see, had there been a music video to the song Desperado by the Eagles. I mean, just what few lines there were to be spoken, because, you know, most of the video would be acted out during the singing. So the only speaking parts would be in the beginning and the end. I got the idea. If y'all ever seen that video that Reba McEntire did? Oh, I can't remember the name of the song now. Is there life out there? Maybe the one where Huey Lewis, lead singer for Huey Lewis and the News, he's her husband in this video, and she's, maybe not middle-aged, but pushing it, but way out of the normal age group of going to college. And she's going to college and she's trying to get her degree, and she's on her final, up all night working on this paper. She got a cup of coffee. Her little girl jumps up into her arms, spilling the coffee onto her term paper. And she's just, the music stops right there. She scolds the little girl, but just kind of loses it for a second. And Huey Lewis, as the husband comes in, he's now, hold on now, just calm down, trying to get her back into her train of thought. And she's crying because she's so angry over all the effort she's just put into this paper. Meanwhile, she's trying to calm down and assure her daughter. Her daughter didn't know any better. Not like the kid did something bad. It wasn't the best thing that happened, but it wasn't worthy of a butt whooping. So instead of whooping her butt, she grabs a book, sits up with her in her arms, realizing all the little girl wanted was some of Mama's attention. Because Mama had been so into school, night school, she hadn't been giving the girl attention. So he wraps her up in her arms, and they get a book, and they're reading the book together. Meanwhile, Huey Lewis, he's out there in the kitchen with a hairdryer, drying the term paper and everything so that the ink won't spread out with the, coffee having soaked into it. And the end of the video, she, during that part, the singing part takes up again. And then at the end of the video, the music ends, and she's at her college class, and the instructor has handed out all the papers, and she gets, I forget what the grade is, she gets, I think, an A-. And anyway, after the bell rings, everybody gets up, they're on their way out the door, and she's one of the last ones out, and the instructor says to her, he says, Miss So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, if it weren't for those coffee stains, I'd have given you an A+. And she says, are you kidding? Those coffee stains are the most important part of the lesson. And one of those heartwarming kind of deals, and you're like, oh, that's beautiful, man. I did not have that kind of childhood. If you know anything about the story of Mommy Dearest and the wire coat swingers, the whole 9 yards. That's the childhood I had. No exaggeration. So, things like that just kind of warm my heart, you know. And that video really got my attention. And I was like, hey, I like this. Whether it does a little bit of storytelling in the beginning, and then without any speaking, there's the storytelling throughout. And then, after the music ends, a little more verbal storytelling at the end. And so with that same premise in mind, I sat down there and in about half a day, I probably brushed up on it a little bit later, rewrote certain parts of it, but with about half a day, wrote the script that I still have to make a video to the song Desperado by the Eagles. And if you ever saw the movie Urban Cowboy with John Travolta and Deborah Winger, you might remember a scene where some old boy is in there operating the mechanical bull, and John Travolta, and I believe the part she played, her character's name was Sissy, they break up, and she starts seeing this other fella, but you may not remember who the other fella is. And anyway, towards the end of the movie, that same fella, they're at Gilley's in Pasadena, Texas, Gilley's Roadhouse. That same fella comes back and robs the cash box at Gilley's, and he and John Travolta have it out. John Travolta saves the day, yada yada yada. Anyway, other than that part right there, now that's not the only time he's ever played the bad guy, but that's the only time as the bad guy you really wanted to see him get busted up. He's also the bad guy in Firestorm, opposite Howie Long, and he's also the bad guy in Porta Vallarta Squeeze. But in both of those movies, even though he's the bad guy, you're kind of rooting for him. Anyhow, I'm talking about actor Scott Glenn, who's been in a lot of movies besides these that I've mentioned. And to me, he's kind of like Michael Keaton. In fact, both have been in a lot of movies. Both have been in some major roles in a lot of movies. But neither of them have ever really gotten the fame they deserve. I think were it not for the movie Beetlejuice and Multiplicity, I think Michael Keaton would never even be as much, which he's not much of a household name, but what little bit of a household name he is, I don't think he'd ever have been that. I think, yeah, he gets credit as far back as Mr. Mom, but I don't think that's where he really shines. I think that people saw what he was capable of in Mr. Mom, and that helped him to climb the ladder in Hollywood. But definitely Beetlejuice and Multiplicity. Of course, now he's not a stereotype actor. He's not one where you only can typecast him a certain kind. He's played serious movies. He's played Psycho. Y'all remember Pacific Heights? Psycho. Yes. But both. There goes my GPS. Acting squirrely again. Both Michael Keaton and Scott Glenn, in my opinion, deserve more credit than they've ever gotten for their acting abilities in Hollywood. And the way it goes, I had the idea, and this is actually kind of weird because I've always wanted to ride a horse. I'm 56 years old. The only horse I've ever ridden was outside Kmart, and it was only fun as long as Dad kept putting quarters in a little box that was attached to it. But yet, for this video, I pictured myself working on a horse ranch or a cattle ranch or something of that sort. doesn't show me on horseback. Get on the road, Michael. A little closer to the yellow line there. Checking my right side mirror there. Sometimes when I look to my right mirror, I tend to oversteer to the left, overcompensate. Anyway, the video opens from a black screen. The sound, the music, or not the music, but the audio is playing first as the screen fades from black into open bright color. All you hear is, birds chirping and that kind of thing. And it opens up to a field with a wire fence. There's a Jeep sitting there near that wire fence. And there's yours truly. I'm not going to write the video and not be in it, right? Yours truly using a come-along to stretch that fence from the tail end of the Jeep so that I can go ahead and hook it up and cut the wire and proceed on. And meanwhile, a Dodge Dually comes up. If you've ever been to Texas, you know about the headache racks and the brush guards up front. So a Texas Dually, I would call it. Dodge Dually comes up in this field. The door opens and out steps in a cowboy hat none other than actor Scott Glenn. And says, it's Friday night, you know that, right? Like, yeah. Of course, Friday night being 4:35 o'clock. Shows him looking at his watch. Well, why don't you knock off and get your weekend started? I got nothing planned for the weekend. Kind of thing. And, well, you've been out riding fences for just way too long. You need to take a break. And, I'm like, nobody to go home to. Why bother taking a break? Well, you ain't gonna meet nobody out here. You need to go out and put yourself in the middle of society. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to be around nobody. He says, well, you're gonna have to because you're fired. What? Yeah, you're fired. You're firing me because I want to keep working? This is all part of the script. He said, yeah, pretty much. He said, tell you what, go take you the weekend off, go find you a pretty girl, go dance some, do something. Come Monday, I'll feel bad about this, and I'll ask you to come back and work for me, make like you was never fired. And go on, desperado, get out of here, you're fired. And this time he's got a smile on his face, he's laughing. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I gotta get close to him some, and the air don't smell too fragrant around here anyway. And as I'm climbing up in that Jeep, getting ready to take off, he said, you need to find you a good girl, let her love you. And after that, I let the clutch out, like, yeah, whatever. Take off, and as he finishes, the camera zooms in on his face and says, before it's too late. Because that is the lyrics in the song, see? The Jeep drives off. He gets back in his truck, then the piano intro, the music starts. Meanwhile, I'm back in my little apartment. Kind of like you see in a lot of these movies, the hero is in the shower and he's just trying to wash away all the hurt and heartache of his life, and it ain't sticking to him, it ain't coming off, So anyways, I get dressed up, I go out, the music's playing, and I've got everything right on down to the Don't You Draw the Queen of Diamonds. Of course, I'm sitting there looking at the girl that's all dressed to the nines and all the makeup and the hair and everything else. Meanwhile, the girl next door type sitting there, she's the bartender. And you can tell by the look in her eye, if you ever saw that movie, Ed TV, bartender, and got his start in Cheers. Anyways, I'll remember once this stream is over. Harrison. Hang on a second here. I don't know. Y'all know what I'm talking about, surely. Anyway, his girlfriend's at the bar talking to Matthew McConaughey while he's back there acting a fool on the pool table. And trying to get attention of all the people on TV camera for that head TV show. They're looking for the new star. And you can see in the camera, oh no, by then the camera's already zoomed in. They're following Matthew McConaughey instead. That's what it is. And anyways, while she's still his brother's girlfriend, she's talking to him there at the bar. You can see it in her eyes. She's in love with him. So that's the kind of look. And this little girl next door type that's the bartender, she's giving me while I'm sitting there trying to think of something clever to say to the Queen of Diamonds down the end of the bar there. And, but all in all, it would take too long for me to describe all this, because, you know, to read through a script is one thing, but to describe every little action, you know, for example, it'll have the word Bob, and then in bold print, that's the character whose line is up next. And in quotations, Bob says, "Hi, Marge." But then in parentheses behind where it says "Hi, Marge" will be a paragraph of everything that's going on explaining the scene. So you say it, to read an entire script telling everyone what's going on, yeah, that's crap. It's raining. Now I need to just figure out what I need to do here. Shit. Guess I need to pull over. Well, it's about time to do my load check anyway. My boss helped me tarp this load, and instead of using 2 tarps to cover it, we've covered it with just one. Except that one tarp just barely covers it. There's a couple spots that left some open pockets. And if air can get in, water can get in. So I really need to check that out while I'm at it. Anyhow, I doubt you'll ever see a country music video scripted while the Eagles sang Desperado. Not anybody else, but the original recording of the Eagles. I doubt that that would ever happen. But if it ever did, it might just be mine. Woody Harrelson, that's what it is. Woody Harrelson. I knew I had to think before I got, well, right by the time I got into this stream. Alright. So now, I've got to find somewhere, finding someplace to pull over ain't the issue. There's ramps everywhere. I got to find someplace to pull over where there's a truck stop. Because if I'm going to have to start pulling bungees and pull my tarps loose, the last thing I want is traffic coming by me on the ramp, making my tarp blow wide open. I had a hunch it was going to be the case. I don't know why. I just had a hunch it was going to rain. Technically, I can't get in trouble because the boss is the one who laid the tarps out. All I do is come behind him and bungee him in place. nonetheless, the customer wants their steel dry. So I probably need to, of course right now the rain's letting up, but there's no telling. I've still got 3 hours to go. Get across Lake Pontchartrain, it can become a bit of a storm. Up here, but it's all the way up there at exit 13. I'm at mile marker 58. That's 45 miles away. 35 miles, 40, whatever it is. A little ways off. Surely there's something closer. Problem is, every mile I drive, my drive tires are kicking that water up into the air. Skating right on by this step deck. Problem is the two corners that are open aren't on the rear, they're on the nose. So if some air gets scooped up into there, it's not just going to come right back out, it's going to follow its way toward the rear, where it can find its way out from under the rear flat. And in doing so, it's going to carry water mixed with it, which will be getting this steel wet literally from one end to the other. That'll work. 1 mile. I need somewhere to pull over. It's as good a place as any. I've been watching my spray behind me. I've been kicking up a good bit of water. So if for some reason, by the grace of God, that steel's still dry, then I'll just ease right back on out of the road. Usually won't be able to find no parking in the rest area, but at 6:15 in the morning, surely somebody's already done pulled out of a parking spot and get their day started. Oh yeah. Had to, I could back up and park there in the end. That's not a designated parking spot, but if you have to, you have to. No, I don't have to. with this. Check my tarp situation. Get out there, check my load. Make a notch in my coloring book. Get back on the road. Who's here? 6 o'clock in the morning. The mama's gonna be 8 o'clock up at our friend's house, so I'd imagine it's the mama. Good morning, honey, or whoever that is. I'm about to shut this thing down for a while, do my load check, and then start it up again. Whoever that is, there's daylight coming now, so you'll actually be able to see something here. We're going across Lake Pontchartrain, you can see all that. So see you in a little bit. Anybody who has come by already or who will watch this after the fact, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. Listening to me ramble. Come back, listen to me ramble some more here in just about 20 minutes. Okay, thank you, bye.